Welcome to this edition of Empower 305. With us is a big shot. He is the meteorologist-in-charge for the National Weather Service, Robert Molleda. Welcome.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
And we have a big season coming up, our 2025 hurricane season. There's a lot that we can learn and have learned through past hurricanes, right? But we're already in preparedness, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, preparedness is a year-round thing. So there's the hurricane season, which of course we know starts in June, ends in November, and then there's the hurricane preparedness season, which is pretty much right after hurricane season ends all the way until it starts again in June. So, we definitely like to take advantage of the opportunity, especially in the last couple of months leading up to hurricane season, to make sure that we have our plans in place, that we get the things that we need in order to be ready for another hurricane season.
There's the straddlers, the last minute people. And no matter how much we try to tell them, make sure you have your water jugs, make sure you have extra batteries, so forth and so on. Where can someone visit? We're pretty good about trying to continuously inform people and re-inform people of what they should do. But for the National Weather Service, where should they visit to be able to better inform themselves in great detail?
Yeah, well, the National Weather Service has our main website, weather.gov. There's lots of information contained there. People can go directly to the National Hurricane Center website, which is hurricanes.gov, and that's where they can get all the latest forecasts, advisories, and also a lot of preparedness information there as well. I also encourage people to follow city and county websites,
yes,
as well as FEMA, the state of Florida websites, when it comes to hurricane preparedness and some of the things that they can do, specific things they can do to get ready for hurricane season.
I was telling you, my staff and I are continuously watching you and resharing information you're putting out. And really, it's not just for hurricanes, it's about floodings, because it's our duty to inform the residents of potential hazards that are coming our way, right? And we have some low-lying areas within the city that obviously has increased with the flooding through the years, but for whatever reason. There may be construction, and that may play a big role. And we just like to tell people, either stay out of the area or do this, because this is what's coming up. But thank you to you and your forecasters that do a phenomenal job about those weather advisories and what to look out for and to safeguard themselves, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Weather is really a daily thing. I mean, obviously, weather occurs every single day. It's not just hurricane season. Yes, hurricane season is, of course, when we are particularly mindful of what's going on in the tropics, being in a hurricane-prone region like we are here in South Florida. But bad weather can occur any time of year. Like you mentioned, flooding. We have heat as well, which is we're in the summer. We're in the heat season.
That's true.
Lightning, strong, thunderstorms, things like that. So yeah, we want to make sure that people are really weather aware year round. So visiting our website, weather.gov, following us on our social media platforms at NWS Miami. That's really the best way that they can stay informed.
One of those faithful people. So you're a familiar face to the people in South Florida. What are the efforts National Weather Service does with the local authorities, with the local agencies at the municipalities, at the county level? Talk to me about how you're able to integrate. A little while ago, you were talking to our emergency manager and how they communicate with you. Can you give us a little background on how that works?
Yeah, we have great relationships with the City of Miami Emergency Management and really the City of Miami staff in general, and we're very appreciative of that, and that's the case with all of our municipal and county partners in South Florida. That's one of the number one things, really, I would say among the top things that the National Weather Service does, besides, of course, our forecasts and warnings, is to communicate and collaborate and have partnerships with our public safety and emergency management partners. And it's really a year-round effort. So in other words, we just don't meet and when there's a disaster out there or a threat of some type of bad weather. We're in contact year-round. We hold workshops where we invite them to come and where we educate about the latest in weather forecasting and tools that we provide so that they can stay better informed. Also, cities and counties will invite us to any exercises that they're holding. So,
like
for example,
tabletop exercises.
Tabletop exercises,
Great.
for example, before hurricane season, there's always a tabletop exercise, and we're invited to those. You know, we provide a hurricane awareness presentation to the city staff, and we've been doing that for many years now, and that's something that we really make sure that we be a part of. And that's, again, so we can further strengthen and maintain those relationships, because when there's a hurricane threatening out there, we already have to be familiar with each other. You know, we've already, shaken hands and exchanged cards.
Exactly.
and talk on a regular basis. You know, we'll talk to them. We'll get calls sometimes very late at night or very early in the morning to give them the latest information on whatever's out there. So National Weather Service values the relationships that we have with the city of Miami, especially with the Emergency Management Department and all the other public safety officials. We value that relationship greatly.
Thank you for all you do. It means a lot. So talk to me about a pivotal point in your career. Hurricane David, 1979, right?
Yeah, well, Hurricane David was actually I was in elementary school.
Really?
At the time.
But you learned something from that. That's why I
was
said
one
Hurricane David.
Yeah, that was one of the events that probably when I was a kid that really got me interested in weather, in following weather, tracking hurricanes. My parents liked to track hurricanes using those old tracking maps where with a pen they would get the location information. This is back before the internet.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
They would get the location of the storm, and they would put it on a little dot there on the map. I started doing that when I was young, and it's one of those things that stuck with me. And my interest in weather just continued as I got older. And then as I got into college, I decided, maybe I'll make a career out of it. I'll study it, and I was able to make it through college, and I've been very, very blessed and very fortunate to be in the National Weather Service really for 35 years now.
That is incredible. And the reason I talked about Hurricane David is because my staff had told me that from when you were a child, you had a liking to weather and right.
Right.
So
yep. Absolutely.
That means a lot. So you had a passion for it, and you've done a remarkable job.
Being
able to
thank you
fulfill your dream.
Absolutely. And I'll mention this quick. This is an event that occurred when I had started my career in the National Weather Service, was Hurricane Andrew in 1992.
Oof, yeah. August 24th, right?
Right. August 24th, 1992. I was very early in my career. I had just a little bit over a year in my career. But that event, of course, in addition to going through the hurricane and going through the aftermath and all that, it made me realize how important is getting the information out to people so that they can prepare. The service aspect of our job. Yeah, when you're studying to be a meteorologist, you think about the science, right? And the science is what ultimately keeps us going and as meteorologists, and what really interests us. But the service aspect of it is what I've really cherished the most throughout my career. Is that what we do hopefully is making a difference, and people are taking our information and using it to make plans and to prepare themselves to protect themselves and their family. Really, it's about protection of life and property. That's the National Weather Service's mission, and it's something that I've learned throughout my career, and we hold very closely to our hearts.
Thank you. That says a lot. To preserve life first and foremost. Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you one last question now. What can we expect for this upcoming hurricane season?
Well, the last, I would say, really almost 30 years now, we've been in an era where, at least in the Atlantic Ocean, now I can't speak for worldwide, but in the Atlantic Ocean, we've had, for the most part, pretty active hurricane seasons.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking in a general sense, not just specifically in one area like in Miami or in South Florida. So there's nothing that we see that will go against that trend of more active seasons. So we will likely have an above normal number of storms forming somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean between now and the end of hurricane season. What we can't predict ahead of time, is where the storms are going to form and where they're going to go. Each season seems to have a different pattern, but that's something that we really can't determine that far in advance. So what we do is when systems start forming, or at least there's a potential of a system forming in the next several days, that's where we start watching things closely, or then we start focusing on an area or a storm, and then that's really where our expertise comes in.
The forecasters and you.
The forecasting, right? In other words, like I would say, like on the 7 to 10 day scale. So that's why it's important that people stay informed throughout hurricane season. Hurricane season has its busy periods.
That would be us.
Yeah, yeah. Hurricane season has its busy periods, and then there are periods of hurricane season where there's not much going on at all. But it's important to stay informed, be prepared at the beginning of the season, and stay informed throughout the season. It's a long season, so we want to make sure that people don't lose sight of that, and to make sure that they stay informed all the way to the end of the season.
Well, thank you very much, Robert, for joining us. And I'm sure you're going to want to come back and continue to inform us as we make our way through hurricane season or after hurricane season, so people can continue to learn from what we just went through, right?
Absolutely. I will be more than happy to come back. Hopefully we come back when there's blue skies.
Yes.
But in the event that there's something threatening our area, we will be there. Our forecasters work hard 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we're going to be in contact with City of Miami emergency managers and all the public safety officials to make sure that everyone is getting the information they need to protect themselves, their families, and their property.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
And that's a wrap. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.